I hate it in movies when something happens and the characters just say what happened and that's like meant to be a joke. I think at one point, Ladybug gets stabbed and then he's just like, "You stabbed me? Yeah, I stabbed you. You stabbed me? Use all assassins. What the hell? Why use acting like this is so shocking?" I was so disappointed by this movie. I really, really wanted this movie to be good. And within the first 30 minutes, I knew this was not gonna be that movie. I feel so lied to. It felt like this movie didn't even need to impress me with its cool, low-effort trailer. John Wick on a train, this was not. Initially watching this film, I was excited. Brad Pitt plays Ladybug, an assassin for hire that needs to retrieve a briefcase for a mysterious mission. Starting with the good, Brad Pitt reminds me of a bit of Jack Burton in Big Trouble in Little China. He's a guy that has fast reflexes, but not really sure what's going on and constantly saying, "Why is this happening? What's going on?" He's not sure why things have escalated so quickly. Pitt brings his charm, charisma, and comedic delivery, elevating even the lamest jokes. However, we don't really learn enough to care about his character. We get that he's a neurotic assassin that's had some kind of traumatic event and he's seeked out counseling, but that's about it. All we get about this guy is that he's a neurotic assassin preaching all these lines about self-care and seeking therapy to other assassins who are trying to kill him. At times it's really funny, but he doesn't really have the character arc. He doesn't really have any lesson to learn or struggles to overcome. You never think for any second that Ladybug will die or is in any danger at all. The comedy in this movie rarely got more than a half chuckle at best and an eye roll at worst, with some really cringy dialogue. The funniest moments in this film was when a train attendant interrupted this pretty solid fight scene in the food cart between Ladybug and another assassin, Tangerine, played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson. This film quickly established that it was not going to be this non-stop action ride like a John Wick film, where it has a simple plot and straight up brutal action. This movie felt more like a murder mystery on a train, kind of like Murder on the Orient Express and those type of films. It surprisingly takes a lot of time to build up the action. In fact, I would argue too much time is spent building up, especially in the first third of the movie. I found myself actually being really bored at times, even looking at my phone, and honestly, I don't know if it was that I had a long day or something, but I actually had to close my eyes for like a solid 5 minutes. When it's building something like a climactic third act, all the emotional beats of this film were so lazily built up with surface level storytelling that I just didn't care and just wanted mindless action. There's lots of moments where the movie will have this epic battle and realize that no build-up has been done. It'll just realize the build-up was done so terribly and rushed that the movie will actually rush to insert a flashback like a child rushing to write their homework while their teacher impatiently waits for it. Everything this film tried to do just reminded me of things done way better in the John Wick movies. Also, pet peeve of mine, I hate it when people talk during fights. It's so unrealistic, especially in this film. They're fighting and they're just dumping all this exposition while they fight. "Hey, I'm not the bad guy. Stop. Wait a second. You're gonna inject yourself with that poison serum, but do you have an anti-poison serum on you? Punch, punch, kick." What the hell is that? Also, why in 2020 are we hearing the term mansplaining from a male character in an actual film? Not only is it not even a trendy term by today's standards, but it's super cringe and added no humor. It wasn't even used ironically. Like if Deadpool used the term, you would feel at least he was making fun of it. But here it's like used seriously. I can't understand it. It's so cringe. It just represents a bigger issue in that this film comes across like an early 2000s movie with even the same shitty CGI. There were all these revelations towards the end of the film that were made out like they were supposed to be a big deal. But honestly, I could not give a f. Most of the time when something is revealed, there would just be an instant flashback to explain it all anyway. The film does this so many times that you actually start to predict when a flashback will happen. I also find it funny that this train could have exploded, like carts could have exploded and it would still be going like normal with no one noticing anything, no cops being involved or anything. It's so dumb. The villain of this film has such a bare bones backstory. Their motivation is so unclear and underdeveloped that I could not care less. I couldn't care less if they were vanquished or not. There's actually a point in this film where one character is like, let me tell you a story. And Ladybug just cuts him off and is like, yeah, I don't really care about your story. And honestly, that's how I felt the whole damn movie. It's a funny moment, but I also felt the same way he did. I did not care at all. Mind you, the film still went on with the backstory. I wish this film was just the final act, but for 90 minutes straight. Just give me that mindless action of the standoff between the gang of assassins. Just give me that movie and we're golden, you know? It just feels like this movie tries to overcomplicate something that should have been so simple. Assassins on a train. That's it. I'm getting sick of movies that build up, oh, this person's the bad guy, and then it's revealed someone else is the bad guy within the last like 10 minutes. All you've done is you've undercut this bad guy that you built up for fucking 2 hours. So you kill that bad guy off. Now they've got no balls because they're revealed to be whatever, like a henchman or some crap. But then this guy that you reveal to be the true villain of the movie, he's had 10 minutes of build-up. So now I don't care at all about this guy. Instead of just setting up one good villain for the purpose of being unpredictable, you've ruined what could have been 2 solid villains. You could have had this villain in this movie and then just done this villain in the sequel. Honestly, this movie could have done that. Because if this was just a little bit better in the dialogue, like this could have led to sequels. Now, the more I think about it, John Wick was so good for that. So simple. But then developed into something else. And I'm like, yes, I did not watch any of the sequels, don't really care for the sequels. But still, man, that's pretty solid. That's a good kind of foundation. But yet no one wants to do that. No one looks at John Wick and goes, well, that's a successful franchise. Maybe I should copy what they did. Wouldn't you follow a lot of the foundations of what they do so that you could be as good as them? There's so many examples of good shit out there to copy and emulate, but you just don't do it, and it's so frustrating. Joey King stood out in her scenes, I will admit, with her manipulation of other characters. She provided some of the more comedic moments. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry also share some really fun chemistry on screen as twin brothers, even though they look nothing alike. I found the jokes between them to be super cringe, but they still do their best and keep the movie fun and lighthearted. Bullet Train, similar to The Grey Man, has a very convoluted plot. I tried explaining the story to my partner after I got out of the theater, and finally I just gave up and was like, it's Brad Pitt on a train with assassins. That's it. That's all you need to know. It just wouldn't be a 2020s movie without a final act with awful CGI that comes out of nowhere, and this was no exception. I love that CGI where you can clearly tell the actors aren't in the environment. It's like when someone uses Photoshop for the first time and they put a photo over another photo with no blending at all and then try to pretend and make out like they were there. It's like, we know they weren't there because it's super obvious. Things happen visually that just don't match the film tonally at all. By the third act, it literally goes off the rails, yet everything seemed relatively small in scale before. Lots of cameos are used throughout the movie to inject some crowd-pleasing moments, but I can't hide the fact that this feels like the first draft of a Deadpool sequel. So, Bullet Train is one of the bigger disappointments for me this year, and I will forget all about it. As soon as I turn this camera off, I'll probably forget all about it. But what did you guys think of Bullet Train? leave a comment below and please like and share this video. Also guys, if you liked this video, I also have a podcast at Spotify and Apple Podcasts called Movies Worth Seeing, where you can hear a more in-depth, detailed review. But that's me. I'm bailing this train. Whee!